The final cut is a masterpiece. But the first draft is a war zone. This is between the frames. The image is now legendary. A man in his tighty whities, standing in the middle of a New Mexico desert road. A battered RV is crashed in a ditch behind him, smoke billowing from its door. He's holding a camcorder, recording a shaky, desperate farewell to his family as police sirens wail in the distance. This is Walter White, and for millions of viewers, this was their very first glimpse of Breaking Bad. A 3-minute explosion of chaos that grabbed you by the collar and refused to let go. It's a scene that screams intrigue. But that scene, the very thing that made the show an instant must-watch, wasn't in the original plan. In fact, the pilot that creator Vince Gilligan first delivered to the network started quietly, slowly, almost politely. And it was that slower version that nearly got the series cancelled before it even began. Let's rewind to 2007. The television landscape was in a state of flux. HBO had already redefined prestige TV with shows like The Sopranos, but basic cable was still finding its footing. A little network called AMC, previously known for airing classic movies, had just dipped its toes into original programming with a critically acclaimed but slow-building drama called Mad Men. They were betting the farm on this new identity, and they were nervous. So when Vince Gilligan, a celebrated writer from The X-Files, brought them his script, they were both excited and terrified. Gilligan's original pilot, simply titled Breaking Bad, opened not with a bang but with a lecture. We meet Walter White in his natural habitat, a drab high school classroom. He's teaching chemistry, explaining how it's the study of change, of life and death, growth and decay. It was a beautiful thematic overture, but for television executives, it was static. The story then followed Walter to his humiliating second job at a car wash, to his underwhelming 50th birthday party, and finally to the doctor's office where he received the devastating news: inoperable lung cancer. The first act was deliberate. It was rich with character. But according to AMC's head of original programming at the time, Christina Wayne, it was just too slow for television. She feared that in a world of channel surfing and endless options, audiences would tune out before they got to the inciting incident. The note from the network was blunt and non-negotiable. We need a hook. We need something explosive in the first 5 minutes, or we can't greenlight this series. The future of one of television's greatest shows hung in the balance. For Gilligan, this feedback could have been crushing. He had a specific vision, a slow burn that methodically transformed a good man into a monster. But instead of fighting the note, he found a solution that was both simple and utterly brilliant. Add a cold open that shows the end of the pilot's story first. He went back and wrote a brand new 3-page sequence. The script described it as taking place sometime in the future. This was the desert scene. Walter, bloodied from a fight, wearing a gas mask, driving the RV like a madman before crashing it. This frantic sequence culminates in him recording that now famous video confession. Suddenly, the pilot had its hook. It immediately bombards the audience with questions. Why is this man in the middle of nowhere? Why is he only in his underwear? Who is he talking to on that camera? And why does he think he's about to die? And what on earth happened inside that RV? The genius of this rewrite was in the contrast it created. After this blast of adrenaline, the episode cuts to a title card. 3 weeks earlier. And then we see the original opening, Walter White in his quiet, boring classroom. But now, that scene isn't slow, it's suspenseful. We, the audience, are now in on a secret. We know this mild-mannered, world-weary teacher is on a collision course with a desperate, violent, and chaotic future. We're not just watching a man's life unravel. We're actively looking for the clues that will lead him to that desert road. Gilligan himself later called the cold open a cheat but a necessary one. It was the Trojan horse that allowed him to smuggle his deliberate character study onto the air, satisfying the network's need for action while preserving his artistic vision. That 3-minute cold open didn't just save the pilot, it became the narrative DNA for the entire series. It established a structural innovation that Breaking Bad would return to again and again. These flash-forwards became a signature storytelling device, creating incredible dramatic irony and tension. Think of the cryptic opening of Season 2, with the pink, one-eyed teddy bear floating in Walter's pool. We spent half a season wondering how it got there, with each new piece of the puzzle ratcheting up the dread. Or think of the start of Season 5, where we see a future Walt, with a full head of hair, buying a massive machine gun out of the trunk of a car. These cold opens weren't just gimmicks. They were promises to the audience that the slow, methodical story would eventually pay off in spectacular fashion. Beyond the structure, the pilot's opening perfectly set the show's unique tone. That frantic, surreal quality of the desert scene, a man in his underwear holding a gun, established a world that could blend dark, absurdist comedy with visceral, gut-wrenching fear and profound human frailty. And in just those few minutes, we got a perfect microcosm of Walter White's character. We saw his desperation, but also his enduring love for his family. We saw his capacity for self-deception, his need to be seen as the hero of his own story, even as he causes chaos. We saw his sudden, shocking transformation from a passive man who lets life happen to him into an active agent of his own destiny, however misguided. While Gilligan gets the credit for writing the scene, we can't forget the unsung heroes, the network executives like Christina Wayne, whose feedback, often seen as a creative constraint, forced a change that pushed the show from good to truly groundbreaking. The principle at play here is powerful. Start with the question, then earn the answer. Vince Gilligan understood that an audience will happily invest in a slow, patient character journey if you first give them a compelling mystery to solve. For any creator, writer, or filmmaker, the lesson is invaluable. What is the desert scene in your project? What single image, moment, or question can you place right at the beginning to create a narrative debt that the rest of your story has to pay off? Sometimes, the most powerful and defining part of a story isn't in the original blueprint. It's the piece you're forced to add last. So, what other show or film do you think was completely transformed by a last-minute structural change or a brilliant opening? Let me know your picks in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to Between the Frames for more stories from behind the scenes.